Mitt Master Matt here, just talking about pad safety today. So if you're going to be holding pads for any length of time, and if you're going to be holding pads for fighters or people who are heavier than you need to look after your body, because else you're going to get a lot of injuries to your wrists, to your elbows, to your shoulders, and back problems. So there's certain things you need to do to make sure that you're safe when you're holding pads. First thing is choose the right bit of kit. So I recommend air pads. They don't have to be this particular brand, which is FTX or F2X, but air pads have a special sort of air chamber in the middle of the pad that give you a lot of protection when you're holding. Plus they're really quite thick and there's plenty of padding around the outside. Usually the fingertips are covered as well, so you don't get your fingernails ripped off by stray kicks. And you can adjust the wrist straps so they're nice and tight. I've tried all sorts of pads. I've tried the thin sort of curved pads, I've tried thicker pads, tie pads, but the air pads seem to do the best for protecting my body. You take the least amount of damage. So highly recommended checking out and finding air pads. All different martial arts companies sell air pads, so just find the set that works for you. If you can't get the air pads, then probably the next best thing to do is get a thicker type of focus mitt, one that's possibly slightly curved as well, so your hand fits in more comfortably. You can get ones with shock gel as well, which protect you against a bit of impact. But I only hold these now, and I hold for a lot of people a lot of pad work, and I do a lot of training with these. I only use air pads. So once you've got the air pads right, you need to obviously try and choose a training partner or work with someone who's roughly around the same size as you. So if you're a 60 kilo person, you want to try and work out with 60 kilo fighters or partners. If you're an 80 kilo person, you can work out with people 80 kilos. What you don't want to do is be a smaller person working out with really big guys. So if you're 60 kilos and you're working out with a 100 kilo person, week on week, month on month, year on year, it's going to mess up your body. You're going to take a lot of damage and a lot of force. So you've got to be a bit careful about who you select as your clients to work with on the pads. Once you've chosen your partner and you're working with them, it's very important to keep your pads within your shoulders. As soon as your pads go outside of your shoulders, you're anatomically weakened and your muscles and joints are not aligned properly, and there's more chance of damage. So you often see beginners holding the pads too wide out like this, so the pads come outside the shoulders, and when they get hit, their elbow gets torqued, their shoulders get tweaked, and it doesn't work. And plus you're taking lots of strain on your lower back. So especially for straight punches and hook punches, keep the pads within your shoulders. Don't hold the pads too close to your head. The other mistake most beginners do is they hold the pads literally in line with their head. And the problem with that is if your partner's inaccurate or they just miss a shot, you get punched straight in the face, and that's bad, that hurts. So the pads come forward a little bit, but they're still in front of your shoulders. Keep your elbows down. Don't let your elbows flare out. Once again, your arm's in a weak position. So elbows down, pads within your shoulders, nice and tight. For the hooks, keep them around about your center line, so directly in front of your partner's nose, at their head height, and the same on the other side with the hook. If you hold the hook out here, one, you're not in a very good place, but two, when your partner tries to reach the hook, they overcommit and they give their back and overcommit their weight. So the hooks stay nice and tight. Uppercut, same. Bring the pad into the middle. Keep your elbow down a little bit. Don't let it flap out too much. Same on this side. I see a lot of pad holders meeting punches, so they go too far forward. This is negative for a couple of reasons. They're trying to minimize the impact by moving their hand into the punch, so it takes out some of the power of the punch. But what it does is it creates a short fighter, so the fighter gets into the habit of when they're punching, they throw their punches shorter because the pad's always moving towards them. So they're like tapping, 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 tapping. And that's no good for sparring or competition, where you need to be extending and using full range of your arms. So don't move the pads too far forward when your partner's hitting them. Just little small movements in towards your partner's punches will help, but don't overreach it because it creates bad habits for both of you. If the person's giving you powerful shots, you might need to ride with the power or double up the pads. So for example, if I'm dealing with a heavier fighter and they're kicking me in the body and I'm holding the pads for the body kick like this, I like to hold like this. I used to hold pads for the roundhouse kick like this, but you can see the obvious danger. If the person's inaccurate, their shin, or it's sweaty, their shin slips off the pad and then kicks you straight in the face, and that happened once. So then I changed what I do. I double up the pads, and I put the kick at about 45 degrees and my elbows up. My elbows up to punish them if they miss the pad. So if they miss the pad, they're going to kick my elbow. It's not going to hurt my arm that much. It's going to hurt their foot a lot. So they get instant feedback on being accurate with the kicks. So I don't advise this. This is a bit risky. You can do this, maybe keep your head out, but I prefer this for roundhouse kicks. But if you've got a person who's kicking really hard and this is really jamming in when they're kicking, you might want to ride with the force a little bit. So when they kick, I step out and I take a bit of the power out of the kick. So if you imagine you're the person kicking me with a right roundhouse kick to the body, if I stay here and take a big kick round after round, it really starts to jack up your wrists and your ribs. So what I do is I just kind of roll with the force and then I come back in front of them. So it takes a bit of sting out of their kicks. So that's one idea for dealing with powerful kicks. Same with knees, you kind of brace a little bit of knees. Front kicks the same. If someone's front kicking really, really hard, I like to double the pads over like this on my stomach and allow them to kick. If someone's front kicking really hard, I like to slide my feet backwards and away as they kick me. What that does is it allows me to take some of the force out of the kick and then bounce back. So rather than stay there and take it, just make your feet light, slide back, and then you can slide back in. So once you coordinate all these things, you keep your elbows in, you keep your pads nice and tight to your body, you alternate feeds, you bring your hands in a little bit to catch punches, you ride with the force of kicks and knees, your pad work will be a little bit safer and you'll enjoy your pad work more. What you don't want to do is start picking up niggly injuries. I've had injuries to both my elbows for holding pads for people incorrectly over the years, and it just doesn't go away. If you keep holding pads week after week, year after year, and these little injuries start building up, they cause you nightmares. I remember watching a documentary with Ricky Hatton's coach, and he had to inject himself with anesthetics into his wrists before he held pads for Ricky Hatton. So, and you know, Ricky Hatton hits hard. That's what years and years of working with heavy, powerful fighters can do, unless you know how to protect yourself and how to look after yourself. So those are some tips to do with holding the pads safely.